Hello everyone, and it's been a while since we last met. Last natin was like 3 weeks ago, I think. And ayun nga, tapos na yung midterms no. And don't worry if nagkulang kayo sa midterms ng a few milestones. Okay, that doesn't mean that you failed na. Just mean you need to get a little bit higher than the usual dun sa project 2, but you still have a chance of passing pa rin. Okay, so nothing to worry about. Uh, so today we're going to talk about yung finals project nyo, and we're also going to talk about collisions. Right. So before we start, do you guys have any questions about anything? Maybe for this or the previous project or your midterms? Wala naman.
Uh,
Hmm.
I mean, mine. I have my question for later. So
Okay. Right. Sige.
sorry.
Uh,
Thanks.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's fine. Like we can talk about it later if you want. Unless you want to talk about it now. But yeah, Karatan, okay lang yan. This is recorded naman, so in any case, you can watch this later. Kapag na, ano, na-DC ka. You're 4 and 5. Sige, check. Yeah, I haven't checked yung mga, ano, yung on the final day. I'll check it later. No, this week. Maybe not later. This week. So if any case naman, the midterm grades will be posted by this week. And again, you shouldn't worry too much about it. Okay, so it's made up of 70, 20% of your grade, right? That still means you have a remaining 80% pa. Passing is 70%, so yeah, you shouldn't worry too much. Okay, sige. We'll first talk about your finals. So let me zoom this in. Okay. So your finals is Outbreak. It is similar to Into the Dead. If you haven't heard of Into the Dead, it was a first person. You're always traveling uh, forward. Yeah, it's you're traveling forward. You can pick up some weapons, and then there will be zombies who are trying to come at you. Right. So you can either shoot them or you go dodge them, jump through fences or something like that. So that is basically your finals. Okay. So the game will never end as long as the player is still alive. So to help them with the escape, you have guns. And not just guns, but you even have pickups like health pickup and buffs and weapons. Right? So the features of this game, precision level generation, you've been doing that. Now we have health, so you won't instantly die, unlike in your midterms. You have guns and ammunition, so this is new. You have pickups. Generally, you have created pickups. However, we have power ups now, which is it will add another level of difficulty. So you've already done this. It's just that we have additional stuff. We have obstacles. So the thing is, these obstacles are not just something to block the player to kill the player. There are others that slows you down, or there's even a fire. There's a fire obstacle. Finally, score recording. So you, in the end of the game, you should show how far they've gone, and how much zombies they've killed. Okay. So game screens, you have the title screen, the HUD of in game, and you have the retry when the player dies. So assets, you can just use the starter content. There should be no problem. But we have to be creative with the materials. So that one, I can teach you guys how to change the materials. I won't go too in depth in it. That should be for another class. But yeah, we'll talk about it. First, getting the order. Yeah. So writing components. So in here, we haven't done components in the first project, but in here it will be more useful, especially with health. The health component, it can be used both by the player and by the zombies.
Sir, are you sharing your
No,
screen?
no, I'm sorry. Right. Y'all didn't tell me.
Sorry, that's my
No,
bad.
no, no, no. It's my
Oops.
bad, my bad. Okay. So it is. You can still see this in the Dropbox, but yeah. Okay, at least first page one time. Thank you for telling me. Shade effects. I think there's one more play. It's Sir David. I forgot what class was that. It's a class I didn't really also like much, but yeah. Okay, so writing components, yeah. You have the health component both for the player and the zombies, right? So this is where we put some behaviors that is used by more than one type of actor. And yeah, actor has too much code. The default rule is that if the behavior is exclusive to one type of actor only, then write it directly in that actor. The thing is, we could actually have two different types of actors for the player and for the zombie. Sure, they could have come from one parent, like a unit. Uh, there's another way then of doing it, component based, such like Unity. If you have touched Unity, everything there is made out of components, right? So you just click and you just drag components into that game object. Same idea. So these are different kinds of of coding. Okay. Sorry. Any questions from the all the way from the features and components here? None. Okay. All right. Features. So movement. Of course, you have the normal movement. It's always moving forward. You just have to move left and right. Then you have the jump for the space bar, and that's it for movement. Health. So yun nga, both zombies and characters have health. So that's why you have a component for that. So depleting the health or when their health reaches zero would kill the unit. So damage comes from different sources, such as projectiles, zombie attacks, and even obstacles. So yun nga, when the player dies, game over. For weapons, this is where this is different, right? So you have these are tools that you can use to kill zombies. If his weapon runs out of ammo, it's all right. You're still equipping the weapon. It's not like you're gonna throw the weapon. You're just holding it, except that you can't shoot. So the only way for you to get ammo back is either you get the same weapon from the ground or you find the ammo pickup. So ammo pickup depends on the current weapon. You can't have, let's say, for the assault rifle, you gain 30 ammo back, right? For shotgun, it would be cheating if you also gain 30 ammo back because shotgun is it deals more damage and um yeah, it deals more damage. It's not like you're gonna it's gonna take um much ammo compared to a assault rifle or pistol, right? So it depends on what weapon you're holding. So picking up a different weapon resets the ammo count. So eto, to make this game simple, weapons do not need to reload. So whatever ammo you have, you're shooting it. You're not gonna ever stop to reload your weapon. So, simple lang yan. Di nyo kailangan may walang clip-clip na yan or magazines. Okay? So, the weapons here, we have pistol, assault rifle, shotgun. So, they have a range, they have a fire mode. Fire mode, parehas pistol and shotgun. Each time you press the left click, to fire. But take note, may fire rate sila. So you can't just spam the shotgun by, rapidly clicking your pressing the left mouse button, right? There has to be a delay before the next available next time you can shoot. Same thing with pistol. Assault rifle, though, range is far and continuous firing when holding left mouse button. Okay. So pistol, if you hold the left mouse button, it'll fire once until you lift your left mouse button. Same thing with shotgun. Assault rifle, if you're holding your left mouse button, it'll continuously fire with a delay per bullet. It's a shorter delay than than both, but yeah, there's a delay. Finally, the projectile for pistol and assault, it is just one ammo one projectile that shoots straight. Shotgun, however, has multiple projectiles and it's spread out. So you can't just have 5 bullets going into one point. There should be a spread. Right? Questions here? For weapons and movement, health.
Do the weapon pickups have to be like the model itself, just kind of spinning in place?
Uh, Up to you. I mean, if you want a box, okay lang. You can have a box, and then when you pick it up, you get the actual weapon. For the weapon itself, the mesh, I wouldn't really force you to um get models from online. You can use the same weapon, but at least try to differentiate it from the other weapons. How? Maybe change the material, maybe add a I don't know, add more stuff into it, like instead of just a skeletal mesh, it's a whole act, or and then if you want, just put barrels or whatever. Ikaw, kayo. So if you want, you can use the same weapon, at least just differentiate it, or you could get online. So online, you could get from the marketplace. No, it's not called a marketplace anymore. In Epic Games, it's called,
The store.
yeah. Basta yun. You could get. So kayo bala. Okay? Any more questions? All right. Pickup. For pickup, can either simply increase ammo or boost some stats. So we have health, right? Health, the easiest pickup. You have ammo here, sure. You have also weapon. But you have these two, Stimpak and Rambo. Stimpak increases the movement speed and must stack with other speed modifiers. Alright. You have Rambo, which weapons do not consume ammo. So Rambo isn't just giving the player 999 ammo. What happens is they should not consume ammo. You still have the same amount of ammo, but it's not being consumed each time you fire. Stimpak, take note, it must stack with other speed modifiers. So there are two ways to go about this. If you want, you have two Stimpaks running, so you can go with twice. Let's say you have one Stimpak, which gives you maybe additional 10% of speed or additional 100 units of speed. If you get another Stimpak, you could either refresh it, refresh the duration, or stack it up. So magiging maybe 20% more speed or 200 units more speed. But make sure the duration, by the end of the duration, it will end. And ayun nga, kapag mud, if you have Stimpak and you hit the mud, your speed in the mud, which the mud, sorry, mud slows you down. Your speed in the mud should not be the same as your speed without your stim pack. So you should be a little bit faster in the mud. Though yeah, you slow down because it's mud. All right. So again, obstacles. So obstacles, you're not just it's not just something that will block you, but you have other things happening as well. You have a debuff. You have fire, which deals damage over time, and it lingers, meaning it stays there even after stepping up. You have mud also, which decreases movement speed while inside the mud, and must stack with other speed modifiers. So fence and blockades, it's one you can pass, you can jump over, one you cannot. Okay? So it doesn't kill you, alright? Unlike yung obstacles noon, it won't kill you when you hit it. It literally is just gonna block. Questions? Obstacles? Pick up? None. Okay. Map. So same thing like your midterms. It is a procedurally generated map that just goes forward. However, you have more ammo. I mean, you have more pickups, you have more obstacles, and you have zombies. So to make the map simpler, put barricades on the sides of the wall, just like your first one, and make sure at least make the tile big so that the player can walk around. The previous one was I think 500 units, or I think that's 5 times 5 the scale. You can go bigger, just so the player can move around more and the zombies can move around more. Also, make sure you destroy the tiles, the zombies, the pickups, the obstacles when the player is far away or when they leave the tile. Okay? Then you have zombies. So zombies, their objective is to just chase and attack the player. But you'll notice that they have a detection range. So you have zombies here, Hunter, Walker, Tank, which very Left 4 Dead. You can change the color, differentiate them. You have movement speed. So Hunter is fast, Witch is very fast. They have their own damage, their own attack speed, their own health, and make sure detection range. That means they're not always chasing the player. They have to be detected first before they start chasing the player. So when they get detected, that is when they start chasing, and when they are close to the player or something, they will attack the player. So my attack speed. So there should be a delay between each attack. What else? Yeah. All right. So zombies in destroy tiles should also be destroyed to save memory. Questions? Map? Zombies? None. All right. Game over. So when the player dies, show the game over screen that shows the distance and zombie kills. So the player can choose to retry or play again on this screen. Ayun. So that's your project, your finals project. Uh, mabilis lang to. If you focus on this, you could finish it maybe within 2 weeks. 1 week fastest, but that means you're working on it the whole time. Because where you're gonna get stuck here is actually sometimes fire, mud, sometimes also this Rambo, stim pack, and weapons. Sometimes people take a while creating this because of how they should run. Okay, because this was not in the first project. You have buffs with a duration. You have debuffs with also a duration that kind of interacts with each other somehow. You have weapons with there's a fire mode, so you have to think how can we make a pistol or pistol shoot faster than a shotgun? How can a shotgun have a duration or a fire rate of slow? How do we spread the bullets? So this is where some people take a while. All right. Ayan. So grading, ayan, this is all what you need for M1. You have these, etc. until M7. Okay. So you just have to follow this lang. It tells you how you should set up your stuff. Uh, yeah. Questions? Clarification? None. Okay. For the grading of this, again, this is 60%. The requirements or the milestones is considered 60%. Hold on. Let me let me open my syllabus. Yeah. So in here, remember we have this. Oh, is it here? Yeah. Requirements 60%. Code quality is 30%. Aesthetic is 10%. So it has to be a marketable or at least a good looking game. Right? What does that mean? Sure, you can have the same weapons, but you have to differentiate it. Sure, you have different zombies, but it has to be all different. So you have a little bit of aesthetic here. You also have sounds. Kailangan si sounds. If wala kang sounds, it affects your aesthetic. Why? We can't have a quiet game. We need to have a little bit sounds to make it a little bit aesthetic. Code quality. Code quality, this usually I give this. However, if we have really spaghetti code, you're gonna get a little bit lower. Maybe like a 85. All right. So make sure your lines are straight as possible. Try to make it clean. Don't make too much of a mess. Okay. If there's a chance for you to make the line straight, please try to make it straight. Okay. Oh yeah. So again, this is your milestone. Everything else is just code quality and aesthetic. Right? So no more questions? All good? Kaya nyo na to? Sige. So no questions. Ay, so we can talk about collision. We did talk about a bit about collision but we didn't go in depth on it. So let's just also prep unmute so I can also show you guys. But physics and collision. Oops. Okay. So physics collision, simulating physics. So for a physics game to be convincing, an object in the game must accelerate correctly and be affected by collision, gravity, and forces. Right. So usually you would want to follow the Newtonian laws of motions, or at least until the third law. Because of these, you kind of feel it's more realistic. You know that there are physics playing into the game. So first law, an object either remains at rest or move at a constant velocity unless acted upon by a force. If a ball is rolling on a flat a surface, then maybe it's not a slippery surface, it's a rough surface, it will gradually slow down, right? So Unreal also has that. It doesn't forever just roll. It will actually slow down depending on the dampening of the uh, velocity based on the surface, right? So it would slow down. If you're in space, however, if there's no gravity, if you throw a ball or you throw a ball with a force, that force will be constant because there's no other force reacting to it. It won't go back because there's no gravity. So it should forever just go wherever you threw it. Right. The second law, an object's velocity and momentum changes with time in proportion to the force acting on it. So if you accelerated the car, you should see the speed go even faster. If you fire a rocket, you see it go faster, right? But if you let's say but you have like a with gravity, right? So with gravity, if you bounce a ball, it doesn't just go, let's say, bounce, go down, and go up forever. It would actually slow down because gravity is acting upon it, and it will gradually slow down and then starts falling back down, right? So we have those. And finally, third law: for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. If you fire at a box, it does, and it's maybe just a normal box. It doesn't just stay there, right? It will start flying, or maybe it will maybe get destroyed, right? But if it's a unbreakable box, it'll fly. It'll bounce everywhere or something, right? Or if you try to push a car, so the amount of force you're trying to put on it, of course, it's gonna slowly move depending on the weight, right? So you have those. The fourth law, however, it's a universal law of gravity where two things are attracting each other. This is usually used for planets, right? Because we have the gravity. However, uh, it's not really used or applied in games unless your game is a say space game. Then okay, sure. But if not, the fourth law is not really seen. Okay. So physics simulation games. So games are still using the formula from the real world, but we are not 100% following it. We are approximating it only. Why? If you try to follow it to the dot, one, it might use too much processing power to always calculate it to the dot. Two, it's boring. Real world physics is just boring. If we apply real world physics to everything in our games, you're not going to be able to enjoy uh, what is this? Enjoy Monster Hunter. You won't be enjoy Elden Ring because those weapons, their weapons are heavy and huge, right? But if you're gonna do it in real life, it's impossible to carry around or to swing it around, right? But we need those inaccuracies. We need those inaccuracies so that it's not too boring. Ayun nga, si Monster Hunter. Right, it's a great sword. With a great sword, if no, we have the people already have debunked this, and it's hard to carry this around and swing it. But the people in Monster Hunter, they're able to just swing it like it's nothing. Right. So we need those inaccuracies. So for Unreal, we have four questions when it comes to the physics properties. Is it simulated? Is collision enabled? What type of object is it? And how does it respond to other objects? So you have those four questions. Before I continue, do we have any questions besides these? Okay. So question one is it simulated? So in order to make an object, a a actors simulate, you have to just enable simulate physics. When you simulate physics, it will fall under gravity, it will respond to forces caused by collision, it has mass. And movement is driven by velocity of forces. So these forces are applied through primitive components. So this can be form of explosion, a jump, or simply moving. So good for games that are based on accurate physics simulation. So we do simulate physics if you want it to fall with like gravity, or you want it to be affected by things around. So it's not normal na naka-enable to for characters in games, because we don't want them to really be affected by physics. Because if you get shot by a bullet, you don't want them to react to it by falling down agad, right? So we only do this for certain things. We could do this for objects in game. We could do this for maybe a physics game with uh maybe just a rolling ball or something. Sure, we can apply that, but again, not always. It's not always on. So this one, I think this is having a primitive component. So we have add forces and add impulse. So these two are actually kind of different. When we add force, we're adding this force into it. It's not like a push. Impulse kasi is parang siyang push or instant force. This one you're just adding force. This one you are instantaneous. You're giving it instantaneous force. Parang explosion. There are two different things. Okay. So you can use this on your components, or maybe if you're using a collider as your root component, it will affect it, right? So any component in your actor, you can use a force or maybe add an impulse. Kinematic bodies, however, they are not affected by physics or by force or by gravity. These are moved manually by changing its transforms. So it's not like the character. The character kind of uses physics just for the gravity, right? But uh, with the kinematic body, you have to move it by changing its location, maybe also rotation, depending on your game. So these are good for games that require very precise and exact movements. So if you want, you can actually have your own quote unquote physics into your game. It's really up to you. If you need to use the realistic physics of Unreal, you can go ahead. But if you want to use your own physics, like maybe you want to stick to walls, maybe uh you want to stick have some type of gravity that shifts, not just going down, but wherever you choose it to go to. Maybe you have to use kinematic bodies. Right? So it's a good example of paddle or breakout or the Pong game. So the Pong doesn't use actual physics, right? It has their own how it bounces on walls, how it bounces on the paddle. Ayun. Questions for simulated bodies or kinematic bodies? None. So if you go to Unreal, this one you don't have to follow, man. But I'll show you where it is. Let's say I create a blueprint of an actor. So in here, I'm pretty sure you're not gonna find physics. Yeah, you're not gonna find the physics here. It's gonna be in the components. So let's say we have a mesh, a static mesh. Let's make it as the root. And so in here we have physics. Physics. So here it is. Why is semi physics off? Ah, there. Give it a mesh. Maybe just basic. So we can add physics here. So what happens is if it's on, if you put it in game, it should fall. Oops. There. So if I try to lift it, it'll be affected by physics. So you'll notice that it doesn't really bounce that high. If you change some settings here, then it'll affect the how it bounces. Maybe we add more mass. Maybe we can make it less. I think it's not even gonna bounce anymore. Yeah. So you can play around with the physics, the settings here, right? So if you turn it off, of course, if you turn off the physics, it doesn't bounce. It's all the way there. So this is where you have to, if you want it to have some movement, that's where you have to change the transform. Okay, so that's simulated bodies. If you want to use the add force, let's say here. Let's delay it a bit. Delay for 5 seconds so that we can see it. And let's add a force. So if you try to search here, add force, there's this physics, but it's telling you to add force on a component, which is the static mesh. You can't add force on the actor mismo. It has to be on a component. That is how it works. So like here, let's say add force of maybe 100. So if you just add force of 100, you'll see after 5 seconds, oops, you need physics. 2, 3, 4, 5. There, you see it. It kind of moves. And it's not slowing down that much because of the mass. But if we make it to add impulse, what do you think will happen? Since impulse is a instantaneous force, unlike that add force of 100, this one will actually move more because we applied instantaneous force. Okay, so the thing's just gonna roll only because we have a mass of just 1 kilogram, and damping that's really low. Okay, so that's the adding of force. Next, we have collisions. So with collisions, we use the colliders. Colliders both from the colliders here, box, capsule, sphere, but these static mesh also has collision because they themselves could have a collider. Okay, so it defines the shape of an object. Colliders are invisible and do not need to be the exact shape as a model bucket. Why do you think if we do the colliders, it should not be the exact shape? Why shouldn't we follow the exact shape of our character? Okay, it says here. Because they're easier to compute for the machine. They don't have to compute for each point of the collider. So we can go as simple as a capsule collider. So we just have to trick the players that this is you have your own collider, but actually it is just a capsule collider. So they'll think that maybe this whole character they have is all colliders. No, we just use a very simple one. So remember, we only have to make the user think that it's accurate. So triggers. Triggers are colliders that do not physically collide or bump with other objects. We use this back in when the player passes through the tile. We use a trigger. It's not something that the player will bump up. They just overlap. They just pass through it. So we need this so that we know if maybe they are there, maybe they pass through it, maybe we want something to happen when they're there. Like imagine, those games where you trigger cutscenes. That's a trigger. That's a player going through the trigger, and then since the trigger knows the player's there, it shoots out an event on the map or the level. Hey, players here, play the cutscene. So yeah, if your game is not really physics heavy, you can use triggers to check for overlaps. All right. So you have the collisioning. There are different uh, collision enabled. I'll show you here. You'll notice here. Ito yun. This is a preset, but if I do a custom, you'll have different choices. There are five. Actually, there are six. This two is newly added with Unreal. It's ano nga meron dito? Spatial queries. Right. Uh we don't normally use this uh unless you really want you want your game to be very optimized. Then you will have to study about these probes and queries. If not, you can simply use these for no collision, query only, physics only, and collision enabled. So nung first project, pretty sure you didn't really play around with this. Maybe you just did uh overlap all, tas yun yun. Or maybe you did no collision at all for the spawn points, right? But if you did, you will find out about these. So what are the difference of these four? If no collision, you are ignoring everything on a physics engine. So it will fall through everything. It's not gonna collide at anything at all. So it cannot be used for spatial queries and is only used for spawn boxes. I mean, not only, but it is useful for spawn boxes. So you can also think of this as pang not trigger. You need trigger here, but maybe you want the place lang to show na this is where they should spawn. Maybe you want to show something else. So we use no collision. For query only, we don't want any physics to happen. We don't want it to bump. We want only for it to act like a trigger, meaning it will shoot out an event that the player has passed through it, but it won't affect any physics simulation. Kapag physics only, this is where we just need a physics simulation but we don't need queries. Meaning we don't need to shoot out any event na, hey, player hit this, player pass through this. No need. You just need to use it just to just so it's there. Why do we need this? Maybe you have some things in your game. It's just there that the player can interact by kicking it around, but it doesn't really do anything. So may mga ganun. I think they're just physics. Yeah, yeah. You see, it's collision enabled. But anyway, what if you just want something that it's affected by wind? Maybe affected by the player kicking it. Maybe the player shooting it. Ayun, you need that. You can use that. We do that so that it doesn't use too much processing power on your PC. Finally, collision enabled. This is when you use both the queries and the physics. So in case you want it to be affected when the player hits it and then it also moves, ayun. You want to shoot at an event when the player actually hits this, okay, you can use collision enabled. So this is good for dynamic object needs to be detected by the game. Questions? So usually yung mga gamit dito is player is a collision enabled. Uh very very lang yung mga mga physics only and query only. Unless like you just want to trigger, sure, query only. Or physics only if you just want it to be there but it doesn't do anything at all. Like there's no point in it being there. It's just there for aesthetic purposes. Physics only. Questions here? None. So sige, try natin. If you do no collision and simulate physics, what do you think will happen with this? What do you think will happen to our ball? Anyone? Will it stay suspended in air? Will it actually fall down and not collide with anything? Will it stop here? Stay suspended? Let's see. You're correct. Because it has no collision, it has no use for simulation, for physics simulation. It stays suspended. And even shows an error. Kasi we enabled physics, but the collision is not enabled. So it tells you, not error, it shoots out a warning. Hey, you need to enable collision. What if we made it as a query only? What happens to our ball? Does it fall? Does it stay suspended? Does it pass through? Anyone else? So I believe this is actually just gonna stay suspended in air. I was wrong. So it does pass through. It does have a physics, but again, it's shooting an error, which is set to simulate physics calculation enabled is incompatible, meaning it's not even supposed to have physics if it's a query. It doesn't use any physics. When it's physics only, that's when it just stays there. It doesn't do anything. You can. Oh, what happened here? Why can't I move? Hold on. Let me just give myself a moving character. Ayan. So it's really just affected by being a physics actor. But you notice that it doesn't slow down. No? It doesn't really slow down at all. If you actually set it to collision enabled, we have query and physics. You'll notice there is a difference. It has some weight to it. Because not only is it affected by physics, but it also is trying to compute with things such as how much force was applied, how much to slow down because of the dampening. So mga yun. So there's some use cases in it. Okay. So that's collision. Object type naman determines how the object will be categorized by the engine. So this is defined per primitive component. So hindi siya per actor. Okay. Per primitive component, meaning per component. So you notice I don't have that here. this is the actor, right? I don't have any collision or anything here. Lumalabas lang siya dito sa mga components. Object type. Or if you put in skeleton fish, you have here as well object type. Right. So you can add your own custom object types. So why do we need this? These object types are actually used down here. Okay. Yung collision responses. Based on your object type, the response is different for each preset, right? If you notice, kapag static mesh, if you notice our preset for block all, let's see block all. I'm not sure if you're gonna see me. If I do this, does it actually zoom in? A little bit. But you notice that everything is blocked. So anything, if you're visible, you're a world static, world dynamic, whatever, it will block. But if you only overlap only pawn, you'll notice that it changes. The ignore, camera is ignored, pawn is overlapped, and also vehicle is overlapped, but everything else blocked. Meaning it will only try to overlap a pawn or a vehicle. Or let's say overlap all dynamic. So you'll notice it is all overlap. And you notice as well, object type is a word dynamic. Okay, so it's different. So meaning, if we are gonna collide with a object that is a world static, it will actually overlap lang. If we, let's go to pawn. Overlap only pawn. If you try to collide with the object that is world static, we would actually collide. But if you try to collide with a pawn, nothing will happen. So all these settings, it's really based on the object type. Okay. So again, ignore overlap and block all. If it's ignore, you completely ignore collision. If it's overlap, this is where you query overlap events, or you want them to pass through it. And block, where the player won't be able, I mean, the object will not be able to pass through it. It will actually just hit it. And this is where you can query for hit events. That's why our trigger here, our trigger is only overlap lang, because we don't want it to block anything at all. All right. Questions here? Object type, collision response. Does it look familiar to you? Object type and collision response. Does this look familiar? No? See Unity. If you've played with Unity engine, the game engine Unity engine, Unity, it also has some collision responses based on whatever object type they have, right? You can actually set it up. So actually see Unreal, you can create your own, just like in Unity. You could create your own object response or object by going to collision. So we have object channels and presets. So object channel, if you want a new object, maybe for our projectile, which is a default response of block. So we have projectile here, and you'll see that we can also be a, oops, it did not tab. Sorry. Custom. You have an object type of projectile. Right? If you want your own preset, you could create your own preset down here. A preset for our maybe projectile uh, outbreak projectile. We want it to be collision enabled, but we want it to maybe just overlap itself or maybe ignore itself. But just in case you want maybe with the shotgun, right? Because they're gonna overlap each other. Maybe we don't want to actually hit the enemies, so we can maybe overlap it. So if you do that, you will have, oops, compile, and here we have the outbreak projectile, right? So it's just like Unity. You have access to these. You can set up your own um, collision response. So yun. So same idea. So how does a object respond? That is your events. So remember, all your colliders have events that you can bind things to it. Like see on component begin overlap, on component end overlap, on hit. All right. So you have all those. So overlap events do not happen from blocking collision. And you notice both objects must generate overlap events to receive the event. This one you didn't really check it out, but it must be enabled so that overlap events will work. How so? Let's go make this again. Maybe oops, custom. Let's make it pass through our pawn. Pass through our pawn when it is. Let's just delete this one first. If we overlap it on component begin overlap, print string overlap. Right? Play this. We try to overlap. Overlapped. Overlap. But if we turn off the generate overlap events, it should not shoot any overlap na. Right? So this one you didn't really play around with. But in case you just wanted to overlap but not, not have any event run, you can do that. Use case, very rare. Depends on what you want. Maybe this is affected by, like, you want to pass through it just in case the player might get stuck with it, right? But we want it affected by external force, like, oops, where's our impulse? Oh no, why didn't impulse? Impulse, physics, 5 seconds, or 5. Oh, wait, 5 seconds. Supposedly, it should still move. 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Based on the mass and all. So yeah, maybe you just want it to be just overlap lang, but still affected by external forces. Sure. Right. Maybe you want it to overlap with something else. So yeah. So that's overlap events. Hit events. If two objects are set to block against each other, meaning if their next action is set to hit each other, it will generate a hit event. So that's very specific. When they are going to hit each other, it will generate hit events. That's why you'll notice if you did not put a if player is dead, and I'm sorry, if player is not dead, it will explode, right? If you didn't put if player is not dead and your character is still moving forward, you'll be spammed by the explosions and the sounds. So I'm not sure if you guys experience that. So that's because your player is trying to go forward, and the game generates it as a hit. That's why it is just exploding multiple times. So if we do this, let's say generate hit events, we want it to block all, generate hit events, and each time it hits, hit. There. It's spamming because of physics. It is saying it's hitting the floor. Because physics is telling you it's going down and it's hitting the floor. If it stops moving, oh my god, it's not gonna stop moving. Let's just turn off. Let's turn this off first. If it stops moving, it should not shoot any more. Yeah, because it is not doing anything. Physics, sure, it's pointing down, but it has already stopped. That's why if we try to make it move, it's forever telling you that it's hitting the floor every frame because of gravity. So that's why. Ayan. Also, make sure hit event is on. If this was off, I believe it should not run any. Yep. You'll notice it run though. Why? Because I want to generate hit events. This character I have wants to generate a hit event. If we turn that off too, generate a third person. If I also turn this off, generate hit events. Oops. Mesh. Who has it on? Something has it on. Is it me? It's not me. Random capsule. Generate hit events. Who's hitting it? I should be hitting it. Why am I? Why am I? Hit event off. Because of physics? No. So yeah. So you just have to find out. But anyway, there's that. Very weird. Unless it's on somehow. Bah, whatever. Ah, no. Hit. Okay, whatever. Basta yun. So don't turn this on for kinematic bodies. Yeah. Generate events with kinematic bodies. So you also notice when you have set actor location, you have sweep. So the sweep actually checks. It actually checks if it's going to hit something. That's why we have a sweep hit result. So in case you don't want to use the physics and you just want to use the kinematic bodies, but you still want some kind of hit or something, we have this set actor location and you have sweep. Okay. So for multiple colliders, this is the thing about Unreal. Uh, you could set up multiple colliders for just one actor. Unlike Unity, you can have multiple colliders, but their collision is handled per component, or meaning you're not able to distinguish which component is acting upon that uh, collision. What does that mean? Because here, if you have multiple colliders, a sphere collider, I think I've shown this before. Uh, with a radius of radius. All right. Let's say we have this, and then we also have a another collision. This is, let's say, here. You could actually differentiate both by saying, hey, string overlap outer sphere. And then we also have for this one, red string overlapped inner sphere. Right. So you actually have control on which sphere you're overlapping. Outer sphere, inner sphere. Outer sphere, inner sphere. How is this used? You could use this for your zombies. Outer sphere is your detection, meaning, hey, there's a player here, start chasing. Inner sphere tells you I should start attacking the player when he's in your sphere. If he's outside of the inner sphere, I should stop attacking. That's one use case. There's so many cases you can use for the colliders. Right? So you can set it up. You can have different collision presets. Maybe for the first one, maybe you just want overlap all, but maybe the second one, maybe you want it to just overlap the pawn. I don't know. Up to you. But you can do that. Question so far or clarification? Okay, none. Sige. Uh, so yeah, active component collision events. They are triggered by any of its components. So whatever component the other actor has, it will try to generate a event. That's why you'll notice sometimes it will hit twice. Or I mean overlap twice. It really depends. Because maybe I have two different um colliders here or something. Because that could happen. Okay. So if I add another one here, I'm pretty sure it should shoot twice. It's a per component basis. So component collisions are triggered by specific components. So yun nga, you can choose which component lang na it'll run the component begin overlap. But if you want to use everything, every collision component will be affected, you can use the actor begin overlap. Okay, so up to you. This one I've shown you a while ago, the presets. So you can play around with this. Maybe your projectile wants to be a specific way, so you can play with this. So I've shown it to you again, just so you know. File, oh sorry, edit, project settings, collision, and here it is. I think we're more than halfway through now. Querying for collision. So this one, you haven't done this yet, but it is good to know. Recasting. Um, when you recast, it's like you're creating an imaginary line in the 3D world space, and this line could be affected depending on whatever object is between the initial point and the end point. So use this to check if colliders lay in the path. Can be used to check the distance from one point to the other. So use this for on-demand collision. So you can do this for bullets since it moves so fast. We don't really need physics simulation for it. So imagine see Valorant. Valorant actually uses recasting. They don't actually spawn a bullet. Unlike see Raze. Um, is there anyone else? Race? Yeah, siya lang yung weapon na doesn't use raycasting. Everything else, recast. Kahit yung mga guns ni Chamber. If you play Valorant. If not, if you don't play Valorant, Call of Duty, everything in Call of Duty is a recast. Unless it's a uh grenade, grenade launcher, rockets, mga ganun. Okay? So, recasting. How does this work? Yun nga. We have line trace by channel. Line trace. So there's actually line trace by profile, line trace by channel. But this line trace by channel, it's a raycast from the start to the end. So you tell where does it start, and then you tell where does it end. This will tell how, I mean ito yung result niya. If you ever hit something, this will actually shoot out some data. So you have hit, time, distance, location, etc. So you have all of these in case it hits something. All right? So here you have to check kasi yung channel. So yung channel, isa pa yun. You'll notice, I think, here, does it have a channel here? Trace response for the channel. Saan nga ba yan? Pawn. God. Is it collision? Channel. Oh, I forgot. I forgot where you find it. But uh, if it's visible by the camera or if it's based on the camera visibility. So there's those channels. You can also do profile. Line trace by profile. This is where, in case you have a specific profile to check. Ayan, so there's those two. So like in this case, it's checking if it is a certain distance from the floor. If it is, shoot out a parachute and slow down its descent. So there's those cases. So you can also do for like shapes. In case you want a certain kind of shape, maybe you want a box trace, a sphere trace. So we do this if you want a line of these. Okay. Questions here? You won't really be using this, but good to know. Clarification? None? Overlap check. In case you want a on-demand, meaning it's not, we don't use the event, this event. Maybe you want it to run only at a certain point. So meaning on demand. You could actually get a list of all the overlapping actors. So there's that. In case you want it to run at a certain time or certain point in the game. Right? So it's cheap as long as you're not checking every frame. For performance, again, raycasting, a little bit expensive. We don't really want to do it every time because imagine na lang the game is always computing what is between this and that. So we don't want that to happen. So we don't try to run it every frame. So use the least amount of rays possible to get the job done. We don't try to extend it to infinite. We try to put a distance. And you can create your own custom trace channel if you need more specific. Less objects, we need to check the better performance. Ayun. Ayun. Tapos na. Questions? So, if in case you want it, you want to get a overlapping actors at a point, maybe like pag explode. Ito yun. Maybe you want a sphere. Let's say when it hits something, you want a sphere trace. There's also a good one, sphere overlap. Sphere. Oops. Ito yun. It'll create a sphere overlap at a position. And you can get all the overlapping actors. Right? May mga ganun. Maybe you want an explosion, diba? And you want to hit everything that's within that explosion. Ito yun. Um, I trace by channel. I really forgot where trace is. It's supposed to be somewhere. Yeah, forgot where trace. Yeah, I forgot. I forgot where you find the trace. But usually, ito lang naman yung ginagawa, visibility. You could also have more, but again, I don't know. You can have other traces. Tests. So it's all under this engine collision. Okay. So yeah, that's it lang for today. Is there any questions or clarification? No questions? No clarification? All good? Yeah, yeah. Info overload nga. But ang important lang naman dito is actually these multiple overlaps. Very useful. If not, there's a way. There's other ways to use it for attacking and and detecting the player. There are people that use if you search online, I think it'll tell you to use pawn sensing. So pawn sensing, it kind of works the same way, except you have more things here, such as hearing, sight, sensing interval, meaning every point 0.5 it'll try to sense if something is within the sight or within the hearing, or hear something in its area. So may mga ganun. So, kayo bahala. I'd rather not. I would go very simple as just two two collisions. Right. So yeah, that's it lang naman. If any case, if wala kayong questions, you can always message here. You can always just message me if you have any questions. So I'm always available naman. Okay. So that's it for today. Next week, meron tayong class. That one is for what is for? Right, this one. Yeah, yeah, nav mesh. So yeah, next week we'll have a class for that for navigation. Para you can also work on that for your zombies. Okay, so hopefully you guys will be there. So yeah, that's it for today. You guys can go and enjoy your night. Uh, Grades will be released naman by this week, but again, don't feel too bad if you failed you or mababa ka because you still have a chance pa. Right. So yeah, that's it for today. You guys can go and have a great night.